Oh,
Murphy's
mate,
Law.
well, as I mentioned to you, we've just had a big blackout in the region down here. So otherwise, lucky the phone's working.
Oh my goodness! You know what? Anytime technology messes up, it reminds me I still have a temper problem.
Yeah,
All right,
absolutely.
so Ray, let's give a quick introduction for everyone for me. I've got some things I wanted to talk about today, and I thought you'd be the perfect person to do it. Give us a little bit of an intro on what you've done in the past and what you're currently doing now.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, sport's always been a big part of my life, but I guess I obviously participated a lot as a younger bloke, but then sort of started working in gyms and went on to a sports science degree. And over the years, I prepared athletes for the Olympics, junior development, and all that sort of stuff for international competition across a range of sports. Working with Institute of Sport and so on, and then presenting and all that sort of stuff. And then sort of trained a couple of winners on The Biggest Loser, and I've tried with the fighters. More specifically with the fighters, I've trained about 11 world champion boxers. Quite a range of fighters across the range. And I sort of started off with judo at the age of 4, and that was more because I was a scrawny little kid living in Mount Druitt. So my parents just thought that was a life skill I needed. And I was cheeky as well, which obviously goes with being small. But so like the fighting game was always a big part of my life growing up. And so as I became a sports scientist, it sort of it gave me an ability to work in that, which was quite tough at the start, because when I first got my degree, the fight game wasn't really ready, and where I liked to work was mainly in kickboxing and boxing. But I'll tell you that the sort of when MMA came about, it really made those gyms that were a bit more old school in their way of thinking. It made them come up a bit and start looking at the research and trying new things. And I just happened to hit that at the right time, which was really good. I had lots of ideas and I had people trust me. And so we sort of had, some amazing fight preps and, working with athletes now. But other than that, these days, I've done a master's in education and I'm doing a PhD in reversing type 2 diabetes. So whilst I still work around medicine a lot, my big passion is still that sports side of things, especially the fighting arts.
Well, look, I love that. And I actually think that there's a really strong relationship between the two, because the same kind of discipline and commitment that it takes to keep to a meal plan while you're training for a fight is exactly the same type of discipline that you need to reverse type 2 diabetes. Like it's not easy. You're going to be in it for the long haul, and a lot of the principles that you learn with one set of clients, you'll apply to the other. So I'm not surprised at all that you've taken on probably the hardest clients possible with having that strong sporting background as well. Now, because there's so many, I don't know, falsehoods or half bits of information that fly around in the fitness industry. And even when I was a young personal trainer and young fighter, like I tried all these different eating systems and plans, trying to shirk my way around the science or try and find an easy solution. The only solution I found was that it is hard, and that your attitude and approach to it is going to have to be the most important thing. So what do you feel like are some of the biggest myths that you find with health, fitness, and nutrition? And what's the number one myth that you would like to break down for everybody today?
Look, there's a lot. Let's start with just specifically for fighters. The biggest mistake they make is they justify bad choices early in a prep. Now, all the hard work for weight should be done early in the prep. And I don't mean making weight. I mean getting to a point where you can cruise into weigh-in and eat more through your hard sparring and things. And that's something that young fighters, or even, no, let's just say unprofessional fighters will do, because people can do it still later in their career. So that's probably, as a fighter, that's what you really got to get your head around. So you want to make sure that, you plan where you need to be as the weeks are going on. So you're not trying to cut weight really fast, knocking over 4 or 5 kilos in the last fortnight, because it's unprofessional and it's quite silly. You can't perform at your best. As far as the fitness industry goes, mate, one of the biggest ones is around rapid weight loss, and I was taught this, at uni myself, best to lose 1 kilo a week and all that. The research doesn't say that. It doesn't. It's sort of a philosophy that sort of just people thought made sense. And it does in a way. You think about it like, if you lose weight slowly, you're going to actually make smaller changes. It's easier and you'll learn those skills over time. But then you add in the human element, and that is, if you're not knocking it over fast, you're more likely to deviate. And when you deviate, you don't lose weight. And so you sort of fall into a heap with it all. But people who lose weight fast, the research shows you're more likely to reach goal weight and you're more likely to keep it off as well. So that's probably the biggest one. Look, there's just so many, things like when they think you go into starvation mode. Like, once again, a very misunderstood area. If you drop your calories too low, I don't recommend going under 1,200 calories, and certainly not as a fighter. But doctors are always putting people who are 150, 160 kilos onto 400, 500, 600 calorie diets. They do that before every bariatric surgery, so they put you on complete meal replacements. This is a purely scientific thing, so it shows it works, and that's because you need to lose, you need that rapid weight loss to lose that fat from around the liver, and if they don't lose that fat from around the liver, then they actually can't access the gut to do the surgery. And they'll often give this advice to patients, and patients go, I'm paying my money, so I'll do what I want. I'm not going to lose weight. I'm not going to have the shakes. And they'll open them up. They'll have a look and go, no, can't access. I'll stitch them back up and send them home. So, look, there's just so, another thing with chronic disease, with exercise, a lot of people think that diet is 80 and exercise is 20. I often say that it's the mind that's 100%, but exercise plays a massive role in chronic disease. So things like high blood pressure and type 2 diabetes, and you can lose weight without exercise, but you can't certainly sustain good weight loss and health without exercise.
Yeah, that's a good one. Geez, there's so many nuggets of gold there, which is exactly why I wanted to talk to you today as well, because I feel like often I've been talking a lot about this pie of importance lately, like where the types of foods sit, your calories sit, the type of training you do sit. And I often feel like people just want to attach too much importance to things that don't matter and don't get the big things right. And I suppose the big thing that everyone needs to understand is probably get their head around the calories, so in the future eventually you can intuitively eat, like it can't be horse before the cart. Because I find now, like, if I want to lose weight, I'm so type of foods that I don't have to measure as much as I used to. I can be like, oh, it's time to knock off that 5-10 kilos and get back to a more reasonable weight that feels good for me. And it generally just it can happen fairly easy for me for that way. But I think that comes from a lot of time and experience. If you don't know the calories first and you haven't practiced all the meal prep or selecting the right foods, it's difficult. What would be your best hacks to get some people some quick wins for losing weight? Now, look, we've made someone angry already.
I can't see it.
Yeah, it's all right. We'll address that later.
We're just on the calorie point. I think that too many people put too much power in calories. Now, calories are a good measure of portions, but calories are a guesstimate. So what I'm saying is use it as a guide, but it's not to be used like a Bible. I don't know. Most people don't realize that, on the nutrition panel, that only has to be within 20% accurate to be legal. But also the equations are very old. So also, like, say, an orange that was grown in Queensland might be different to an orange that's grown in New South Wales, So there's got to be, taken with a grain of salt kind of thing.
Yeah. So obviously, when you do that, how would you get someone some quick wins if they were looking to start their journey in weight loss and they wanted to get some quick wins and be a little bit healthier?
Yeah, look, fresh unprocessed food is the start. So whether you're vegetarian or whether you like eating high protein diets, and I'm a much bigger fan of a higher protein diet without being over the top. I like eating meat and so on, but you can do it with a vegetarian format as well. If you plan it well. The main thing is to make sure you're getting enough protein, because, like I said, fast weight loss is good, but whether you lose it slow or fast, if you don't have enough protein in there, you're not going to maintain that muscle mass. So you're going to lose muscle mass, which is going to affect your strength and power, but it's also going to affect your metabolism. So what I do, one of my go-tos, if I'm sort of just coming off Boxing Day after a week of catching up with the mates, I'll cook up some oxtail soup. And I do that with like 1.5 kilos of osso bucco, a couple of oxtails, and then lots of veggies and brisket bones to boil up for the stock. And it's all made from scratch, but it's really plentiful. And I'll have that twice a day. If I need to eat anything else, I'll have some fruit or salad or veggies.
Yeah, that's perfect. And obviously, eating lots of protein, it stops you from getting hungry all the time. It's like my favorite thing to snack on when I'm trying to be super healthy is just making sure that I have beef jerky in the house all the time, because I really couldn't care if I overload my calories in protein, because it satisfies my hunger and lets me kind of, like, in the back of my head, I'm going, oh, at least all those weights I lifted and all that wrestling and boxing I did, I'm not going to lose any of the muscular gains for that if I have enough protein,
Yeah, it's I work in the remote areas a lot, so I'm driving for 10 hours at a time sometimes. And when you're living on the road, you can prepare meals, but when you get caught out, you've got to call into a servo for a feed. My go-to is beef jerky and nuts. So it's a real easy fix. It just ties you over, and that's how you've got to see it when you're traveling, is just work out what can get you to your next meal, next time that you can actually choose something good.
Yeah, awesome. And for athletes that want to get fit and strong and put on healthy weight, what would be your advice to them?
Oh, mate, look, you just got to eat a heap and do a lot of weights. That's pretty much it. It comes slowly. I started off, at 47 kilos when I was 17. That was when I was amateur boxing at 17. I was 47 kilos. I was the scrawniest kid, and I didn't go through a growth spurt till I was 19. And you'll find that most men will go through that growth spurt at sort of 19 to 22, 23. And that's a good time to be hitting your weights especially. But look, I think there's too much focus put on putting on muscle mass. I think that productive muscle mass is the key, and that's what I learned. And sort of, I was about 30, and I was playing first grade rugby union, and I was just all about heavy, and just eating heaps and getting bigger. And I probably play best at about 84, 85 kilos. But for me, that was small compared to a lot of blokes. So I tried to get up, and I got up to about 90 kilos, and I was running like a wombat. Like, seriously, I'm a pretty fast runner, and I would chafe so much, but I felt like I was Fred Flintstone when I was running after the ball, like I was on a treadmill. So you've got to look at what's functional, because in the end, what you need to do is be able to carry that weight around and then recover properly as well. And sometimes carrying extra weight isn't the way to perform better.
Yeah, 100%. And just the consistency too, like consistently doing things that are hard, make you stronger and put on that muscle mass. I think people, they float around a little bit instead of just being consistent. Like if you really want to put on some weight, like it could be as little as 3 times a week, but you need to lift heavy things those 3 times a week. And especially for athletes, I suppose, that are trying to be functional, you don't want to turn into a bodybuilder either. Like you need to do your 3 weight sessions a week. That's probably enough, but don't stop doing sport that you want to be stronger for to replace it with bodybuilding. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. And a lot of like the contact sports, like it's not just strength and muscle that's the key, it's technique. And that's why, like with junior athletes, even as a strength and conditioning coach, a lot of the focus has to be on technique, because that's the stuff that's going to come much faster as well. And way back when I was a young bloke coming through, all the contact sports was just weights, and it was all bodybuilding. It was terrible stuff for sports, but it's all changed now, and now they understand that skill development is key. It doesn't matter whether you're boxing or playing rugby league, rugby union, and skill in defence is your technique is going to certainly be much better than if you just get stronger.
Yeah, and they've done that. I mean, they've really breaking down the tackle into a stronger technique. Like the best way to get strong at tackling isn't just putting on muscle; it's actually doing training to train your tackle and get the technique right, and your body in the right position, your posture right, and all that kind of stuff. Which is a wonderful thing for, trainers that have done technical fight sports. I think sometimes can help translate that posture control from weights into a sport a little bit better.
When I start to work with a fighter, I actually like to go and see them spar, because even though a lot of my work's going to be done outside the ring, I want to see how they sit on their punches, because it doesn't matter what I do, outside the ring. If they're not able to sit on their punches, they're not going to generate force anyway. So we can improve their power just by making sure that they're getting their technique right first. Like that's an instant thing. All of a sudden they're hitting harder without even lifting a weight. Yeah,
because their posture while lifting isn't as important as their posture while punching. Which like there's small tweaks to people's hips and things that can be made during their footwork practice and everything that will help them sit on those punches a little bit better. Which takes a while to figure out. Like even as a martial artist myself, I'm always trying to still turn my hips in the right direction and get all of that stuff right. And I think I actually learned a bunch off a gymnast once who was talking about the position of the hips to when you drive off your feet, and it translates really well into boxing and kickboxing. And it was something that I hadn't thought about before, which was really interesting. Well, I really appreciate you having a chat with me today, Ray. I know you do a lot of stuff with weight loss clients and diabetes and whatnot. What's something that we can all do within our families that can really, really help limit the chances of the people around us either suffering from weight issues or diabetes?
Yeah, mate. Look, it's a growing problem, and we haven't even scratched the surface yet. The numbers are crazy and growing every year, and it's silly because it's a preventable and reversible disease. But that said, being a role model, that's pretty much it. Like if you can make sure your kids see you exercising regularly, see that you're eating healthy, they're going to be more likely. And think about it, like for your kids, they look up to you. They're the people. You're the person they trust the most. If you're pushing veggies away because you think it tastes disgusting, what do you think the chances are they're going to eat veggies? Now, that might be fine. You might think, oh, no, well, when they're older, they'll get into it. No, they don't. They learn all this when they're kids, So if they're not eating them as kids, they're definitely not going to eat them as adults. And then in their 20s, they'll have type 2 diabetes or high blood pressure or the like. And, the getting it so early is going to be a real big problem. The other thing is just activity, physical activity. Make sure that they're getting around, running, kick them out of the house and out into the backyard and force them to play if they're not doing it. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people you associate with are like myself, and our kids are all pretty active, but it's so important, especially through those teenage years, and even my 14-year-old daughter, she's at that age where she's sort of starting to pull out of sport a bit, but we sort of got her through, and she's enjoying it again and just changed sports, and it's just whatever to maintain that activity level.
Yeah, that role modeling is really important, but also like that discipline thing too, where they're still living under your house, and there's going to be those power plays when your kids want to give up and quit because it's not the cool thing to do at school, but like it's the cool thing to do in my house. I train every day, so my kids train every day, and and I provide some training for them, and if they want to do other sports, they can choose other sports. And so they get those days off to play netball or whatever, but they will still continue to train in their off days. And because it's just something that our family does as a lifestyle, and they know they can't get out of it, they've learned to enjoy it, which I feel is going to set them up for the future. So it's something that I think parents are frightened to do, to enforce commitment, like you're making little robots, but their little brains aren't designed to make all the correct choices for themselves. So if you don't want to set them up for failure, I think sometimes you have to make the right decision for them.
No, it's absolutely true. And you know, we get people with 14 years of age with type 2 diabetes, and that's just insane. That's crazy, you know, and that can all be turned around with some fresh food and some exercise. It really is that simple. And to be in that position where when we were younger, if you got type 2 diabetes in your late 40s, that was considered young. You know, we have a responsibility to our kids to be the leaders, to advise them. It's not like it's punishment, you know, like, I mean, they end up having fun and they really enjoy it. And my kids are all highly competitive without me having to be one of those parents on the sideline getting into it. You know, they see that, you know, when we're competing against things, I try, you know, I know I'm only going to be able to beat them for a little while, but, you know, we want to teach them those lessons on how to win, how to lose, you know, try to improve their game so they see that people aren't natural athletes. And that was probably one of the mistakes I made as a kid, is that I just thought people were either good at something or they weren't. Whereas we know that some people are gifted at a young age, but you know, as you get to that 14, 15, 16 years of age, the hard workers overtake them. They overtake the lazy ones that have got talent. So just instilling that work ethic in them, that, you know, if you're not as good as someone else, why is that? What can you improve, and try and break down the sport, you know?
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really good advice. It's something that we try and push to our kids all the time. You know, because it's really easy for a kid to give up something because they're bad at it, right? So they give up before they even get a chance to get good at something. And I think it's not, you can't join a kids martial arts club, or you can't join a kids football club and expect them to be good in one season. Like, like, it's just not long enough playing. So they have to enjoy the process and fall in love with it. But not only that, the parents, you got to like take them for longer if you want them to build that confidence to actually get good at something. They have to actually play that game. You know, you got to play rugby league for 3 years before you're even good at it. You know, you got to do martial arts for 3 years before you're half good at it, and then that's when they get addicted to it, and then you're no longer hassling them to go to training anymore because they love it. They want to go because they're doing better than the other kids that just started. So it's really like a 3-4 year process to get that done, rather than you join your kid up for martial arts for 1 year or football for 1 year. They're not going to love it. In 3-4 years time, they'll love it. And that's a tough thing to wrap your head around, I think, as a parent at times.
Yeah, I guess that's what I like about jiu-jitsu, though, is you learn that sort of progression and how to be humble, and that real quick. It's a humbling sport. And so my girls love it.
Yeah, and it's play fighting. The kids do love jiu-jitsu. It's one of the easiest martial arts to sell them on, because you even if you're losing, you're literally rolling around with your mate giggling. Great for adults too. So it's still my favorite thing. It's favorite thing to do. You know, whenever I'm away, I go find somewhere to train. So I just trained with Grant and the guys at Iconic Jiu-Jitsu on the Central Coast, not far from you. So that's a great little gym there as well. We had a good time. All right. Well, thanks for joining me this morning, Ray. I really appreciate it. There's some gold nuggets in there for people who are looking to eat healthier and wrap their head around things. Have you got 3 final points you'd like to add for anyone and their nutrition to help them out on your way out?
Look. The number one is just, no matter what style of food you like to follow, like eating plan, just eat fresh, unprocessed food. It's as simple as that. Set a benchmark for where your weight limit is. So for me, it's 88 kilos. I sit quite comfortably between 84 and 86, but you know, if I'm sort of traveling a lot and that, I can jump up to 88. If I go to 88, that's when everything rips in. That's no weekends out, no dinners out. It's just basically straight for 7 days, sorry. And then I'm back, you know, at 86 again. So it's about, a lot of the times we can sort of lie to ourselves and try and justify, oh no, I'll get it together next week, and then end up at 90 kilos and 92 kilos. That's how it works. So, you know, you're not different. You're not going to overcome that. So the only thing that works is action. So just don't lie to yourself, take action, and you'll rip it back in real quick. But it's all here. It's all just being strong in the mind and being accountable to yourself.
Awesome. Brilliant. Thanks, Ray. Great advice, and look forward to talking to you again sometime soon.
Cheers, mate.